Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, there's basically, there's probably more, but 4 basic reasons why we all need to report crime, right? So number 1 is we need the data, right? Police departments, I use the data, or organization use the data to determine, how staffing and how resources are deployed, and of course budget as well, right? We need to know what to budget where. So we do use that information for data, and we need to know exactly what's happening where, at what location, what times, what type of crimes, so we can address it. But if we don't get that data, if they're not reporting it, then we don't have that data, right?
So are you saying that it looks like there's less crime, or has always looked like there's less crime?
Well, I mean, yes, because we know we have a challenge with underreporting. But that's not to say that the data that we do have is not valuable. It is very, very, very valuable, but we want accurate reporting, right? So that we need everybody. So that's why we encourage, because we still have the challenge on, certain neighborhoods and communities are not coming forward on reporting.
Can you give an example of how your department would use that data to positively impact the community?
Oh yeah, I think it's fairly simple because I look at data every week, sometimes twice a week, just to figure out exactly where our hotspots are, where the issues are, and how to deploy our resources and take care of that, right? So very, very important that we know as a police department. But also, jumping into number 2, it leads right into number 2 because it's also very important for the community to know, right? So that's why in my newsletter, hopefully, not trying to give a plug, but if you're not subscribed, subscribe to my newsletter, because in that way I show you exactly where the crimes are happening. I'm not afraid to show you because you need to know, because you need to be aware of what's happening in your neighborhoods, and also you can be more vigilant, right, with your neighbors and preventing some of these crimes. So that's 2, but also with the police. The police needs to be aware as well, like the beat cops and the patrol officers need to be aware of what's happening where, right? That's from data that we're giving them, so they know where to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. Just real quick, can I just go into 3 and 4? I'll be fast. I'm sorry.
No, take your time.
3 is investigation, because we really, really have to investigate these crimes, because obviously we need to identify the suspects. We have to ultimately make an arrest of the suspects, and we can hold them accountable. Very important. Number 4, and I think the reason why we're all here is, of course, victim services, often overlooked. We don't know if you're a victim. We're not going to be able to help you with, finding the victim services that you can be afforded to. And I guess we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
So we have to look behind the numbers when people don't report. It would have been much easier if the crime was just being reported consistently to show what was happening. And then one example that was here in Chinatown was serial graffiti taggers that were hitting all the roll-up doors and causing damage to businesses. We were hearing about it, but there weren't any reports being made. They weren't bothering to call it in a lot of times because they didn't feel like anything could be done. So what wound up happening with that, one of the officers from Central Station actually went around, and without anyone calling it in, without anyone asking him to do it, he went and documented the tags of a couple different taggers, and then we indicted them on 29 felonies. That got them to stop. When they had 1 or 2, and most of their crimes are not being reported, we knew from them giving interviews and from what they were actually saying was that they were not worried about what was happening. But then once Central Station took the initiative to go out, document all those crimes that no one had even reported, and then hold them accountable for what they did, they all stopped the damage they were causing. One of them was good for almost $1 million worth of damage over 15 years.
I don't think every time we need to wait for GoFundMe to support a victim. There should be a long-term strategy of violence prevention and intervention programs built in the community to prevent it from happening. But because we lack of data, whenever as an advocate, when we talk to city department, key stakeholder, they say there's no data. We're still a model minority. Chinese are doing well, Asian they're doing okay. Their API score is high still within the school district. They're all fine. When we try to advocate for mental health services for the Asian population, because of stigma, nobody seek help for services, no data. We can't look for resources without really data to back us up.